Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Alan IHOLDSHIFT on a Frio.
And I'm Austin Visions Neil.
And this is the Defuse. I don't know why I always feel like I need to sing the last part of my last name, but I always feel like I got to add a little bit of vibrato in there. Not a Frio.
You kind of change it up each time, you know what? I need to get on that page as well, Alan. I don't think I change up my intro enough here. I got some work to do.
It's all right. We all have work to do in different spots. Vibrato to the end of a last name is definitely an important one, though. That's for sure. We're gonna do something very different overall when it comes down to it, and we're doing something here because largely there's just so much to talk about that we're not gonna be able to fit everything into a normal 30-minute show. And the other half of it is I was too lazy to make the graphics today. I'm not gonna lie. Just be glad the ticker is working correctly, because I almost didn't do that either. Where do you even want to start? Because we've got roster changes going into this stage to start across both CDL and challengers. We've got a bunch of challengers results that are super surprising. Obviously, we've got the results from today, and then beyond that, I know the big pressing conversation point has been what's been going on with Huke. So there's so much. I mean, where does your mind go first? Do you want to start with the Toronto 3-0, dude? A little keeping the dubs?
Yeah, I'm here for that. Absolutely. Let's dive right into that one, Alan. So, I mean, we're coming off of what was, an incredible stage 2. No one even predicted it. We didn't even get to talk too much even about that in the first place, right? About Toronto even winning here on the podcast. So I think that alone was something that I think a lot of people were coming in with the insight of like, all right, are they going to be able to, carry this through? Was that just a hot day for them where they picked up a lot of series wins and they were able to carry that through? And I think we did get an answer. That search destroy, maybe a little too close for comfort, but overall, I still think that Ultra is proving, that they can actually push the limits and kind of, beat up some of these teams that are coming in with changes, might be those honeymoon phases, but still, aren't exactly getting the full-on grip of what they can kind of do as a full-on roster.
It's one of those things that I remember back way at the beginning of stage 1, very hot on the Toronto Ultra. I think we both were at certain points. Maybe I jinxed it. Who knows? We're not going to go down that rabbit hole. But at another point, it was like the potential. I think we both very quickly recognized what this team would have to offer. I think I even went as far to say like this is the best bad team in the CDL right now at one point in time, and they're showing us exactly all of the potential that we kind of recognized at the beginning of the year. It came in a weird way. I mean, I don't think any of us would have expected that Methods was going to be the one to get dropped, and then Bance would be the real hot topic point for the squad. But hey, here we are. I don't know. Going up against this Florida squad, you mentioned the fact that this is not an opponent that anyone's looking at as being a major threat right now. Do you hold any reservations over the fact that it did take a round 11 and a round 5 for both the express search and the raid control to get past a team like Florida? Like, would you have wanted to see something more convincing than what we got, even though it still was a 3-0?
I think so. I mean, it would have been nice as a fan for sure, to probably see something that's more convincing to see, okay, like these guys are still levels above. But I think there's something to be said about a team that does make a change after not finding success and leading up to, your potential at the beginning of the season. Like you feel like this is that moment to kind of finally prove it against the number 1 team. So I really do think that Florida came in there hot, right? Like, because if they take down Toronto, who just won stage 2, like you're feeling on top of the world, especially with Havoc coming in, who's, one of the big playmakers here, along with, someone else who makes a lot of plays as well. So I don't know. I think I don't take too much from it because it is just kind of like the very first game. Everyone's getting back into, the flow of like scrims and getting back towards the regular timing that they were in stage 2. So I think it's a good sign for Florida, but I'm not convinced. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it'd be interesting kind of to dig into the whole world of, what did scrims even look like with the patch that happened like overnight? Like, what version of the game are they actually scrimming on versus what they're playing? Because they're playing pre-patch is what we're getting. So I have to imagine that there is some ability for them to get onto pre-patch servers just to run scrims on 60 hertz. I know that they were talking about how they did get access to start scrimming on 60 hertz overall, if they want to. So I have to imagine there's the ability for them to scrim. But regardless of that point, I think it was just interesting to see that first matchup for Toronto because, well, I guess on the same page, like speaking of, because we're going to spend a lot of time talking roster changes. Were you generally pleased with what you saw to Havoc? Because, I don't think he underperformed, but I mean, I also don't think that he was like an X factor for the team overall. I still feel like they're still looking at Awakening and Skies to hold that mantle.
Sure. I think that he was okay. Yeah, I agree. I don't think he like underperformed by any means, but I was expecting maybe a little bit more out of Havoc, I think, because we've been talking him up for the last couple of months and we've now got to watch him a little bit recently and towards challengers. So I think we've had expectations like, all right, like there had to have been a change. I think we both agreed that Havoc need to come in for Slack, but I think now this is the why factor. Okay, we need to see why, Havoc is coming in here for Slack. What is he doing differently? Because if he's just doing a lot
Right.
of the similar things that Slack was doing, which was playing the objective and maybe being a little bit fast on towards the rotations and calling some of those plays in S&D. Like that's a lot of actually what Slack was doing. Like Slack was one of the big voices for that squad. So I'm still missing the point, I think, from Havoc to see it is just the first series. So it's, it's hard to go into in depth, I think, which is what I'm kind of going into at the moment. But I did expect more, I think, is what I'm kind of getting to after that long winded sentence.
That's perfectly acceptable, I think, as far as an expectation is concerned, because Florida needs something, right? I mean, at this point,
they do.
because it still continues to be Skies and Awakening playing great. Where's everybody else? I mean, it's just
Fair.
Neptune has had a couple of good series, but largely I would say, out of all the rookies that came into the league this year, has been, I think, the most underperforming player, as far as being able to impact the team. And Slacked, I think we kind of talked the conversation point of the fact that we thought that he was the one that was kind of underperforming for Florida, but Havoc doesn't really fix those problems immediately. So I don't know. It's an interesting one. I mean, the Search and Destroy, it really was Skies and Awakening. Awakening very well may be the best Search and Destroy player in the league, like flat out. Dude, he's nuts.
He's just, I think it's just the way he realizes, like, in the moment where all the positions are for like the opposing team. It just feels like this dude actually has like the X-ray or something, man, because the way he picks apart some of the defensive setups, like specifically on his offensive rounds, it feels like, dude, like, how are you not winning more than you are? You know what I mean? And to be fair, they were one round away from really closing it out. And I think there was a bit of a throw for sure. But yeah, you're looking back on those ones, you're thinking, all right, like, what is the problem here? Because it seems like everything is just so out of place for a team that you really did think would have high expectations. Guys comes off one of the best seasons I think he's ever had. Still looks solid in this game. Awakening the exact same thing, maybe even better than his Modern Warfare year, which is pretty obnoxious to even think about. But it seems like it at times. He plays like it, and you just don't have maybe the subs that are doing what other team subs are doing. So you just have this crazy situation where it's like what is the problem? And if they get
Right.
a couple more series in and the same thing's occurring, was it the right change? And you have to think of Havoc too here, Alan, where he got benched at the beginning of the season and now his team is bringing him back in, and that feels, I think, a lot of weight on your shoulder because you feel like you're obligated to fix things, right? Like,
Yeah, you have to
something
be.
horribly wrong. And am I the answer? I mean, that's probably what Havoc's asking himself.
Like, do you need to be that answer? I think is the other kind of thing behind this. I'm not gonna lie. This is the first time I've largely. This is off topic slightly. I've been looking at the Breaking Point GG statistics, like player statistics.
Right.
This website is fucking elite, dude.
Yeah. It shows everyone, every team,
Literally
win-loss,
everything. Like, I was sitting here, I was like, I wonder what kind of percentages Awakening has when it comes to first bloods. And they have that. 20.5% of the first bloods that his team finds, he gets. The only player that's better is Abeezy. So, I mean, and that's Abeezy's role. Like, he literally, he's supposed to be the spearhead. That's wild. Yeah, I think Florida's, I don't know. They've got a really interesting schedule to start because you play up against Toronto, you play up against Minnesota. I don't think you expect to win either of those games. But next week, their only matchup that they play is Paris. Like, that has to be a must win for you, right? Like, you've got to come out and win Paris. Like your only matchup is on Sunday, and you get a chance to watch Minnesota play up against Paris a couple of days prior. So, like, you better win that matchup on Sunday for Florida.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. I mean, but like Paris is in the same boat too, but I like a lot less weight because there's no expectations period for that roster.
That's fair.
They just make a change and they're kind of in that. That's actually going to be a good matchup, but I do think it's a must win for Florida because if you go through another disappointing stage 3, especially gearing up for what is everyone working towards at the end of the year, champs, right? Like that's the big one that counts. You're trying to work towards that and slowly improve from stage to stage, and we haven't seen that so far. So if it happens again, like do you start like
right
for rookies like to bring in Neptune?
You would have to, right? Like,
it feels that way.
Or anybody else that just got dropped out of the CDL. I mean,
yeah, pick the name, right?
yeah,
Like,
there's literally no shortage of options when it comes to it. Let's talk Paris, because they play up against Dallas. They come out, they looked great. You know, I'll say they looked great after the restart.
Yeah.
That's the big key. You at least said map number 1. Temp was there. Okay, I'll say that much. But, you know, I thought that we saw Scraps become a little bit more the Scraps that we come to expect. You know, now that he's kind of back to the role that you would like to see him into, that kind of AR flex. What's your thoughts on Paris? Because they come out hot for the first map, but then they get blown out in the next 3, essentially.
Yeah. My thing is with Temp, I've always been, I don't know, on the fence with him as a player, because I feel like he's really inconsistent. But when he shows up, he shows up. And I think that's what we got out of him in the first map. And that could be really hard to play off of. I do want to say that with this Paris team, it is better suited for Temp, because I think Temp was trying to fill a role that he just simply couldn't fill with that LA Thieves roster. I think that's how it really felt, right? When you were watching him compared to the second SMG, you know, with Tej, and then compared with when he had an AR, like you could just tell like something seems off. So I think in towards this roster, it does like unleash him a little bit to maybe go rogue and do some of the Temp things that we saw during Modern Warfare or Black Ops 4, where, you know, he was really, really insane. So I think overall I like the change, but I still need to see consistency through every single game mode. That's the biggest factor. Like, I think HPs have just about always been there for Paris. They've lost some, but it feels like that's the game mode they've had. S&Ds and the controls, that's when you're like, things aren't always together for them. They're not always winning and relying on those game modes to come through. So that's where I kind of see the problem with that roster, is the consistency. And they did just make a change, right? So the philosophy of how to play the game could very much be on separate pages at the moment. They're trying to collectively come together on how they want to play. So there's a lot of you know, intangibles that kind of play in for as far as what could be the factor. But overall, I think I'm a fan of it. I do think that Paris will improve over the course of the stage.
This still feels like another substitution that does not, in my mind, convincingly change anything. It at most it feels like a 1-for-1. Like Fire for Temp, kind of a 1-for-1. Granted that, you know, they want to bring in Temp so that way Scraps can play that AR flex, and he did play better on it, like mentioned. But I just don't feel as strongly about, like, okay, you're bringing in Temp as your second sub. Are there really not better options that you could have pursued that may have more chemistry with those players? I mean, to be fair, I mean, this is kind of a veteran squad overall. So, I mean,
I guess so, yeah.
I guess I could kind of understand to, you know, go down the veteran route to pull in somebody that you know you have experience with in some form. But I think from just a raw, on paper, 1-for-1, this is not a move that, in my mind, brings a lot of extra value to Paris, especially when it comes to search, which has by far been like one of their worst modes in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's a fair point, I think, because you're looking like for Fire for Temp, and I think Fire was inconsistent. So like a lot of the same things, I guess, follow through. The only difference I think that I'm seeing is with Temp. Like, I think you bring a lot from that LA Thieves roster, working with a lot of really talented individuals. So maybe you bring a bit of a knowledge gap that they don't necessarily have. But I do think, like, I agree with you in the fact that a lot of the same problems kind of occur, where it's essentially the same thing Florida has, right? Where it's like Scraps looks good with an AR, Aqua looks like actually
Great.
one of the, like the Octane from last year.
Yeah,
right?
he
With
really
AR,
does.
like, at the
really
moment.
does.
So you take away the same things, and the back line's great. The front line, I think, is the issue. The entry, the classic, not always being consistent for you, but when he is, he's great. Like, it's just such a difficult roster to say like these guys are going to be able to go through the stage and, you know what I mean, and win a lot of series, because like the inconsistencies are just there within the individual players, not even as much as a team. So it's hard to always be on the same page, I think, as that core 4. And I could see kind of some of the concerns for sure.
That's a good point. Now, on the other side, well, we'll save it. We'll save the Huke conversation for after we get through all the results. We could talk plenty of Dallas after that.
Sure.
Let's get into the matches today. LA Thieves. I mean, this one looked like it had the legs to go all 5, just based on the maps that they like to play. You know, I'm not gonna lie, like being a part of the Breaking Point predictions, like this was the first match so far this year. I was like, wait a second, I'm pretty sure their map pools are like pretty synergistic, like they're pretty much the same. So like I had to go through and like do a little bit of checking. I was like, what is this map set actually going to look like? And that was what determined who I picked. And I did go pick LA Thieves. I didn't think that they would do it in reverse sweep. I had them going map for map until map 5, essentially.
Mhm.
So what were your takes over the Thieves? Because for me, I'm still holding myself to the mantra of why was Draza not starting in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's fair. Like Draza had a really good performance last year. Trying to think of a point to say, well, maybe this is why, but I'm kind of thinking back and like, I mean, yeah, like why wasn't Draza put in? I think maybe the only reason it wasn't sooner was because it took Draza a little bit of time to get off the ground in challengers. Like that was something that was just happening. You know, he was maybe performing okay, but his teams weren't always making it. So it really does feel like CDL teams are putting a lot of weight on the players that are actually performing at the top right now in challengers. Like they're putting a lot of weight on those individuals, and it's like Insight finally after stop getting top 64, he wins the challengers. Hey,
Yep.
let's bring him in. Let's
Yep.
bring him in, right? The same thing happens with Draza. He won. He's performing well. Let's bring him in. So I think we're noticing a trend, and we're seeing how serious the CDL teams are taking the challengers scene as well. So I think that helps for as far as okay, we know Draws is ready. Let's now try him out and see how he meshes in with the scrims and how he actually performs on stage again. So it's almost like they needed that, validation of okay, he can do it here, so now we can do it here. Almost what it feels like.
it, I think the other thing that could be thrown into the mix here is maybe a bit of stubbornness from the player base and coaches of
Maybe.
like, hey, like we
Sure.
want to go with four guys that have brands and names and we think can work.
Right.
And they try to make it work. They swap positions around. They put Kenny onto a sub, Temp onto an AR. That doesn't work. That's the last straw. Now we're in change mode. Venom comes through. Now draws us into the mix finally. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's really telling to the simple fact that you know that LA is going to continue to make moves if they feel like they need to.
They will.
I just never in a million years would have thought at the beginning of the year that the one move they would have made was
Slasher.
Draza in place of Slasher. Like
No one thought that.
no one would have
Can't
thought
predict
that.
You make
That's
that up.
literally it's actually unreal. And I would say this much, like I was a little bit worried to see like if Kenny is going to go into sub role like he did when he was playing World War II,
Mm-hmm.
like would he be able to pick up and find success? Because the guns form very similarly to Modern Warfare from last year, and him with a sub last year was not successful at all.
Very
So
true.
I don't know. Stylistically, I was worried about it, but Kenny's been really good with the AR flex, and Traza apparently is a great man AR. I mean, who would have thought that was going to be the roster? Though I never in a million years would have guessed that.
I'm glad that they were also able to come off with a win like that too, because I
It's a
think the coaching
close
staff
series.
close series, and it's the composure to bring it back, right? Like when you're looking at these rookies, I think the number one question that pops up the most when you're looking at management is like, like how good is their composure? Like naturally, are these guys going to be able to handle like the pressure of being 0-2 down and being able to bring things back? Well, we saw it a lot from Draza last year, so you already have that kind of answered for you. Venom is, I think, the real question mark here on this roster. So the fact that you see them do something like that, and Seattle, that was also really vibey too. If you're watching their cams and like what
Dude,
they
they
were
were
doing overall, like
feeling it.
they were like, oh man, like we're gonna come away with a 3-0. And it's like, oh wait, we lost our worst game mode. All right, we'll close it out in the HP. Oh no, you won't. We're going to map 5. And it feels like in those moments when you win two maps in a row, you're coming back with a reverse sweep. You got some of the rookies, mixed with the vets. I mean, that combination now I think has been proven to be one of the best for as far as a full-on team over the course of the last couple of years, right? With Clayster, really implementing that. We're starting to see it come true. So that was a big moment for them to come away with. And now they build off that, because even if it is just Seattle, it's the fact that you were able to do it, hold that composure, and come away with a win. So I didn't think it was going to work out like
Me
this,
neither.
Alan. I'm honest. Like I thought everything was going to collapse and more changes would come through, but it's nice to see them at least start off on the right foot.
So let's flip the script. Talk Seattle. They came out stage 2, making no changes and impressing.
Right?
Right? I mean, they played well through stage 2.
Yeah.
Now we're into stage 3. I mean, I hate to point fingers, but I think you're hard pressed to not point a finger at Looney and say, brother, you've got to start playing better. Like Octane throughout this series was the reason that Seattle was able to win the first 2 maps. So what is there still a consideration or maybe even demand that a change needs to happen here if Seattle wants to be a contender? Because that's what it comes down to. I'm not necessarily looking at this matchup in specific and saying Looney played bad, change him. I'm looking at this team as, can they compete for a championship? And I don't think this roster has it in them now. I mean, maybe after stage 2, the progress was being shown. If you were to come into stage 3 and do the same thing again, I would have been able to get on your board and say yes, they can compete. But if you're losing to LA Thieves, how are you going to beat your
Yeah,
Atlantas, your Chicago's, your Dallases?
that's a really good point. And to the answer, I mean, I think you do have to look at Looney and say, all right, like you really do have to start stepping up because a lot of the top teams have great fast-paced SMG duos. Now, the only factor I think that plays into maybe the roster change not coming through that could benefit them is when we do start playing on this new patch. I don't know if it's confirmed for the stage or not. I have to assume at some point in time it's going to come through. That maybe slowing things down and the movement not being as cracked as it was helps someone like Looney, right? Like, I think maybe you're looking in towards that and you're thinking, all right, do we really want to make a change and then have some rookie come in that plays super fast and super aggressive, like a Standy, for example, something like this. Is that going to hurt us in the long run if we then have to make the changes and that sub player is no longer comfortable in the environment he's been playing in throughout this entire year? I think those are some things you have to consider and maybe think just a couple weeks ahead and play it out. Play it out. But at this stage, I mean, this is kind of like how I was thinking for LAG, right? Where it's like a couple bad stages in a row. It's time to make a change. I feel like you could have made a change here going in before stage 3, but if you're going to stick it out this long, let's see how these next couple weeks go.
Right.
But if it doesn't go good, Alan, something's got to change for sure going into the next one. But I mean, it's still up in the air because I think that this patch could potentially benefit someone like Looney.
Yeah, and people in chat are saying this. This is what I thought I had heard, kind of floating, that next week the new patch will come through.
There
So
you go.
let's look at Seattle more specifically. They play Chicago tomorrow.
Right.
Honestly, could be a good game. I mean, after how London
Yeah.
played them pretty tight, played Chicago tight today, could
Yeah,
be a
wasn't a
really good
blowout.
series. Could be a pretty good series. But then next week, their only matchup is versus New York. And then in week 3, they play Atlanta and London. So do you look at the Seattle team and say you've got to go 3-3? Like, do you or 3-2 rather? Like, do you need to beat Chicago, New York, and London to be safe from changes in your mind, or
I think you
what would
got to
have to
come away with
happen?
2 of them.
You're
You
thinking
got to come
2.
away with you got to come away with at least 2. At least. I think 3 is a good note so that you're not making a change, but I mean, you have to also kind of think about these guys and what they're looking for, right? Like they want to win. So if they're not winning, like 3 of those matches at least, then maybe in their minds like it is time to make a change. So in my mind, I'm thinking you need at least 2 wins. I think you need at least 2.
Who are you looking at as far as those wins? Like who they'd come against? New York, London?
I think you could come away with I think it's possible that they could beat Optic. I mean, they came out hot today, right? Like that was a series they should have had.
Should have won that
And
series. Yep.
I don't think Optic is looking as scary as they were in stage 1. I still think that they're maybe improving and getting better, but I don't think anything drastically changes. And yeah, I think the other one is likely going to be probably the Ravens. Maybe you come away with
Okay.
because New York might be looking like final with Hydra. We don't know yet.
Yeah. Okay. Fair point. Fair point. And then finishing off the day, Chicago played London, and well, we talked about it just for a moment right there. 4-game series, largely pretty close. Outside of the Moscow hardpoint, everything was contested. I mean, the 252-07, 6-4 search, round 5 checkmate control. I'm not gonna lie. After Optics' first offense on checkmate control, is like, oh, this is about to be over at a 3-0, no
It seemed
problem.
like it.
But hey, London came out and they did the exact same thing. Won their offense almost just as quickly, almost just as convincingly. So shouts to the new boy Zap. Is Zap Paul the truth? Is that enough to turn this team around, or what are you thinking?
I mean, it would be nice to hear like 2 challenger players that, absolutely went off at the beginning of the year to come in towards a CDL team and really fix it. Essentially, because that's exactly what they would be doing since this team has went through so many changes more than any other team so far. My head is at, yeah, I think these guys have proved like they individually, help some of your vetoes, for as far as what maps you can play and what maps you can't, just purely because of how dominant they were on checkmate, for example. So I think that opens up, opportunities for you to be able to be a stronger team if you can make your map pool a lot more solid. And I do think that that duoship naturally helps what you already have kind of going for you between, Shawnee as well as Zach, who have also played together from the past. So there's a lot of synergy built into the duos. It's just a matter of making that work as a team. And I do think they're all individually good enough. But I don't see that squad, really contesting. I think, some of the phases, like the Torontos, because I think there's just too big of a speed difference still that will overwhelm them. I think in a lot of cases.
That's fair. Um, I'll say this much: I do think that this was the right move. when it comes to getting some familiarity for Paul, because I think they hit it on the broadcast very nicely. Like, somebody besides Paul has to start performing. And
Yeah.
Zap has shown with Paul, even outside of maybe some of their differences that they had in the regular Challengers season at the beginning of the year, that he's got the potential to be in takeover mode. The one thing I keep going back to, though, and this might just be a fallacy on my own end, is I always think of Zap as a top performer when matched with his other SMG, whoever that happens to be, back at Black Ops 4.
Ooh, that's a good point.
And now also through Modern Warfare and Cold War. Every time I think of Zap, I'm always thinking of whoever that second SMG is right next to them. And collectively, they're a great SMG line. Like, Zap Ven at the beginning of the year was untouchable. Untouchable. Can we possibly expect those same things to occur when you're talking about Zap and Zed? I don't know. I'm not convinced.
That's a really fair point, actually. I didn't really even think about that because I think Zed's been okay. And you know what? It really does feel like the Ravens are just, they have someone like Zed on there purely because they're trying to keep this brand, at least half European, right? That's what they've kind of, went down to. It's like, well, we can't go for 100%. We're not performing. We're not winning. So let's cut that in half at least. So there's no way in hell I think you're ever going to drop Shawnee through this entire season. I don't think there's a world where it's going to happen. And I don't think they're going to drop Zed for the simple fact that they want to at least keep, half of this team European. And, does that submachine gun line contest the likes of, a team like Bance and Kleenex? You know what I mean? Like you're a BZ and Simps. Like, I think the first answer you would always come to is probably a no. Like, do they have it in them to contest those front lines? I don't see it. Do they have it in them to be a middle of the pack team? I would say yes. I think maybe that's what you're even shooting for based off of this entire season.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're at what, 30 total points so far, and we're in stage 3.
Yeah,
like, it's wild because maybe, again, like, my mindset is broken, but I still consider that this year is more overall competitive from top to bottom than last year. And I don't look at London like I looked at Seattle last year. Seattle walked away with what, 4 wins last year overall? And technically we've played more overall matches so far this year than teams did at this point last year. Like,
those are mostly against LAG too, right?
Yeah, 3 of their 4 were. Yeah.
Right. So I think that's also, a pretty true point where I think that, the Ravens, you can look at them and I think they could show up on a day and take down, some of these better teams, not the top teams, but I think they can contest them. So I agree with you on that.
Let's go back and take a look here. So their wins are versus LAG, LA Thieves. Wait, did they only won 2 games, or did I put one down incorrectly? Did they get bonus points for something? Wait, I'm blasted. I'm actually just looking at my spreadsheet now and realizing that I may have a mistake. That's going to be frustrating. No, they've only won 2 games. Oh, it's because they got 20 points for stage 2 because they weren't in the lower round 1 matchup. They were in the lower round 2 matchup off the rip.
Right.
I think that's what it was. So they're at 30 points with 2 wins. Their 2 wins are versus LAG in stage 2 and LA Thieves in stage 2. That's right, because those 2 wins put them in a position to not be at the bottom of their group. That's right, I remember that. But versus some of the top teams, let's see what their record is. Map 5 versus Dallas. They got blown out by Atlanta. Chicago, they just played. They've not touched New York, not touched Minnesota. So game 5 versus Seattle. And then 2 different 3-1s, I think, versus Toronto is what I'm seeing. No, as a map 5 and then a 3-0. So, I mean, okay, actually, I'm totally wrong. They're just getting smoked in everything, apparently.
Guess so. I mean, maybe I guess that's the best thing about being that team is you can think of yourself now as like the Paris Legion at the beginning of the year, where it's like there's no expectations. Like, listen, if you go and lose every single series from here on out, like that's gonna suck. Let's be honest. But it's like I think everyone as the community is like kind of almost writing these guys off, so there's no pressure for them to perform. But I think they have the chance to still bring things back.
Man, what a weird year we're in right now.
It is really strange. It's just the changes. Like, I don't think we dude, last year we did not even have close to this many changes. So like
it's the amount of benching I think is the wild thing.
And I don't think it's all skill either. Like
no, it can't be. You set up the segue. Let's talk about it. Huke. I mean, I don't want to speculate too much because we don't know the inner workings of what's going on.
Sure.
But I think the community at large has some ground to stand on when it comes to the weirdness of the timing that it was announced. Like late at night, a couple of hours after you got done playing.
Yeah.
That's really strange. Like they don't play today. They didn't play today. Like
Nope. I
the
don't know,
timing of
man.
this announcement is really really weird.
Something's off. I mean, you could tell that Dallas wasn't as dominant as they were like at the beginning of last year, but in my head, I was still thinking they were going to ramp up like they did last year. So maybe stage two was like the breaking point, along with a lot of the practice that's maybe like taking place. Like I always see Huke as someone who's really calm and collective, at least from when we're listening to the comms and we see him behind the scenes. He's a really chill dude, really easygoing. I think the majority of the pros have even came out and said that, right? So it does feel like there's something more kind of happening, and then they bring fellow in as well to kind of fulfill that role where it feels like everything is kind of on the fly, right? Like it if something is just off with the whole situation. No one can really pinpoint it because we're not being told the whole story, so we're only able to really speculate. But you feel like something must have happened behind the scenes outside of skill, because to me Hook's been the best performing player in Cold War, and I think I said that on the last episode when
You
we were
did,
talking
yeah,
about it. So
yeah.
I'm baffled with the decision. And yeah, it doesn't come down to skill. There's no way.
I'm interested. Talking about Tyler, happy to see him back in the league, first and
Yeah.
foremost. The circumstances around him being in the league are obviously not ideal, but I'm happy to see him back in the league. Does this now mean that Illy's going to go play sub? I mean, it'd have to,
I think
right?
so. I think so.
And that's an interesting conversation point in its own right, because I think when you're looking at what has even been kind of dictated by these first four matches here in stage 3, your top overall KD leaders, whatever you see like CDL Intel or Breaking Point Post, it's always your main AR and your AR flex, except for Dallas. Like it's Krim and then Huke or Shotzi. Like Illy, I don't think has been like a top 2 overall KD performer when it comes to like the stage for Dallas, really at large. And
Right.
as somebody who drafted Illy freaking round 1, I was expecting much more. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen here, because Illy Black Ops 4, largely I feel like I'm thinking about him with a Maddox in his hands. Like I can't say that for a certainty, but like that just sounds right to say.
Yep.
Um,
Can confirm.
and then last year, obviously, AR flex roll running kind of with that no optic, no stock M4 for Dallas. So can he just go back to picking up an AK-74U and like? I guess like, does this change make Dallas better?
I don't think it makes them better, but in the long run, I can see it, because for whatever reason, I think I do see Illy more as a sub when he's playing in respawns. When he's playing in S&D, I think he can run both and it's fine. But when we're talking about respawns, I just feel like Illy feels more comfortable in a lot of those maps, and we got to see him, with the sub throughout last year on some of the maps, right? Like
Right.
it felt like Illy was doing Illy things with Shotzi, and that duo like is never really talked about as much, where it's like Hook and Shotzi, like insane frontline. Like it's like one or the other that you're bringing up every game. So it's never at the same time that you're kind of collectively talking about them. And I think that Shotzi and Illy, I mean, obviously already have a great relationship where I feel like you can push that and you can maybe make that into something that's going to be great. I don't think the change is better, but I do think that fellow has a lot to prove. He's going to be really hungry to work with a lot of these guys who just came off of a championship last year. So I'm excited. I think is really the word that I'm looking for as far as this team, but I'm not convinced again for as far as the change, because I just think like Hook is just too damn good. like what's
Yeah, I
going on,
mean, I could see like in a world like fellow for Illy, 1-for-1 trade-off could be what Dallas like may need. Like if they really do feel like Illy with an AR flex is just not it,
Right.
could be something to consider.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it's just I feel like as much as I we don't have any idea, like it's something about Kook not playing is like it just makes my stomach turn a little bit. Like after the
Yeah.
year that he's had, like you said it, I agreed with you. He very well could be the best player in this game.
It's hard to take in. And yeah, it just brings nothing but question marks up,
Yeah.
Alan.
Other side of
I'm
things,
worried for him.
How about LAG's change?
Yeah, this is even worse.
You want to talk about a team's best player getting benched?
Dude.
Look no further than the Los Angeles Guerrillas.
Man, okay. So like I've been preaching that this team needs a change, and I mean you've been fighting against it, right?
I've been stand for LAG, dude.
Leave them as 4. Get to the end of the year, they're gonna be solid. That's my best Allen impression.
It's
but
good
for me. For me, I was thinking, yeah, these guys need to change, and then I rather watch this video, this awkward coaching video where it doesn't even feel like they're making the right decision. They come out and they say, we're going to be releasing Vivid. We're going to be, bringing him back, and we're going to put Chino in. So now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay. So you guys got 3 ARs now on the roster. Fantastic. What have we learned from Cold War so far? The game is very, very fast paced. Who are the top teams? Toronto, Atlanta, FaZe. How fast do they play? They play extremely fast. Boom. 3 ARs. What are we looking at here? I have no idea. Maybe they're going to go down and, get express every time in their pools, and they're just going to wall bang bottom B and, get 2 or 3 kills, light it up, right? Like, I have no idea, but I'm looking at this as a major problem because Vivid was one of the best players in the league, man. Like, how do you just go through and bench this guy and then, like, I have nothing against Chino, but I just don't think that is the right move. Silly moves to a sub. He has to learn the role. There is now all these inner workings that have to come together, and I'm just not seeing the light, Alan.
Yeah.
Not seeing the light.
Look, I think at this LAG roster, I was most at the beginning of the year questioning could Silly hold on to the AR flex and actually respond to what the number 2 ARs are going to look like across the rest of the league. He didn't disappoint, but he didn't overperform either. Him on a sub feels more natural, just based on the last couple of titles that we've seen him play on. Chino into the mix. Like, I get that you've got to pull somebody from your academy roster. And that's the other problem. Like, you've got to pull somebody from the academy roster that's been finishing top 64 on average. Until apparently they just got new internet and now they're apparently okay again. That's what Exceed was saying. So, right. I mean, it's not you don't have any great options to fulfill in. This, in my mind, reeks of an emotional decision from the coaching staff. Like, something had to have gone wrong in the team and some emotional, because he's not even, they just signed Mox to their challengers roster. Like, yeah, so Vivid's not playing at all.
Right. I mean, the rumor going around, which, take it for what it is, but is that, he might have benched himself, or it might have been an internal issue, which you have to kind of relate to, because, like, even bringing up the argument that Vivid's playing too fast for our team to keep up with is, like, the wrong approach in my mind. It's like your team's playing too slow to keep up with him. Like, it's not a Vivid problem. It's a team problem, right? So I'm looking at this change thinking it's got to be, very similar to this Huke situation where you feel like there's more that meets the eye, and there's got to be a reason. Like, I mean, I could only imagine, like, the mental strain of, like, performing at your best, doing really well, the community also telling you that you're playing really well, and then maybe, like, that gets to you and you're just, like, not even ready to go into scrims on the day, or, like, not prepared mentally to go into what your matches because you already feel like the outcome is going to be a loss,
right?
Simply because there's just been no highlights from this year so far that you could take away as an LAG fan or as an LAG player. So a lot factors into this. I want to say, I don't think it was purely for skill by any means, because Vivid's the best out of all those guys, and you're going in with a change that I think is completely wrong.
Look, this is full of speculation, and
sure,
if someone like Bevels ends up watching this, or Ricky ends up watching this, I apologize ahead of time of the tirade that I'm about to go on. But this LAG team, they essentially told us that Vivid was the franchise player when he was the only player they kept after Modern Warfare. The only player they kept. And he just played okay last year, but LAG was a fire last year. An absolute garbage fire. But getting into this year, you hold on to Vivid. He's your best performer. So let's just say that that's a management decision. Someone above Bevels and Ricky makes that call. Like, we want Vivid to be the guy. You have to have him. You have to play him. Okay, cool. We'll work with it. This now feels like a Ricky or Bevels going to management saying, we don't want Vivid on this team, which means that something would have had to happen that is so off from anything we could possibly speculate on that there was no decision but to put him out. Or it's just the only other reason would be like, this is just a pure emotional decision. I had heard people saying that maybe Vivid wanted to drop himself, but why would he not play at all?
Challenges.
Like, period. Like, done completely. That doesn't seem like that would be the case. Not on one of his best titles that we've seen him ever on. Something is not adding up with the move, what's happening here. The other thing that I kind of had heard was Vivid was trying to get other people on the roster dropped.
Oh,
and that came back to bite him, and that could have maybe led to an emotional reaction.
That's always tough, though, right? Because you're like a young player, you have a lot of potential. And if that was the case where he wanted maybe to find, for example, I still think that team needs a new main AR, like for starters. Like, I still don't think Assault is, held his own whatsoever this year. And I don't think he always plays for the win either. I think he will hold a pre-aim at the end of the game rather than slide into the hard point to play for the win. And I think that is something that you have to look at changing, like, in my opinion. So I don't know, man. I just think that altogether, this is a very similar situation to what happened last year, where you had a very poor performance throughout the entire year. You made a lot of roster changes. A lot of them did not work out for the better. This year, you want a franchise player. You want to build around him. You try to build around him with a lot of veterans, and nothing has clicked over the course of 3 stages. So now you're forced to make a change, and then you make the change onto him. So I think that LAG is going to get a taste of what this game is like when you don't have a Vivid in front of you that's breaking in with your entry and it's creating plays. And I mean, Silly, I think, is someone who's been pretty consistent throughout a lot of Call of Duties and takes a lot of flack for the community for a lot of reasons that don't make sense. So does he have the potential to still do a lot of that? Sure. But I think a Vivid and a Silly sounds a lot better than what seems to be a role swap and then a Chino coming in with just another AR, a slow AR at that too, right? Like, can maybe play flex in the past, but a slower AR traditionally. So,
and for OGLA last year, I thought when Chino did get his chance to play, he did improve that team.
He's okay.
But again, this is not a substitution that is fulfilling Vivid's role, no matter how you look at it. Like, it would have had to have been Nero or Exceed. I'm actually a bit surprised that it wasn't Exceed, simply because he played with these guys in Minnesota at the end of the year last year. But their schedule for LAG, they play Paris tomorrow, first matchup. Have to win that one if you want to have a chance at making it anywhere in the stage. And then you've got Toronto. Good luck, have fun. Dallas, probably no chance. Minnesota, definitely no chance. And then you've got a rematch versus Florida, who eliminated you from stage 2. Those, it's the first and last games that they might have a chance at winning. I don't see them standing up to Toronto, Dallas, or Minnesota whatsoever.
I don't either.
That's a yikes.
Oh, Alan,
this is a yikes.
I don't even know how you
This is the first team to beat Atlanta, dude. Like,
yeah, isn't that wild? To take that in and then see where they are now. I mean, they've always relied on their S&D, so they need presence in respawn, and I just don't think that's the answer for it.
Oh, they need yeah. Their search needs, or their search is the only thing getting them through series right now.
That's what I mean. So that's why I feel like if you're gonna bring someone in, Chino, I think is better at S&D than he is at respawn in general as well. So again, another solution that I think you were looking for.
So
not good.
This is interesting. You said that and it sparked an idea in my head. Out of the 4 wins that LAG have, they either have to win in round map 5 or they 3-0. So it literally is their search and destroy.
Yeah.
And let's see, in those 5 maps, how many of those map 5s do you think they won both search and destroys?
How many of those? Oh,
so
all of them.
Yes, all of them. Yes, you're right. Literally all of, like, it's not just map 5, I mean overall. I mean, it's their map 2 and their map 5. In those series versus Paris, Toronto, Atlanta, the only reason that they win those series is because they win both search and destroys. That's actually kind of mental when you think about it.
Yeah. That bad at respawn?
It is that bad at respawn, by the way.
Wow. I mean,
6 and 16 in hard point, 4 and 10 in control.
Is that not similar to last year where they were winning some S&Ds, right? With that lineup of, Saints Blast. I don't remember exactly, but I want to say like it was a similar story, right?
Yes, you were right. They were 16 and 15 in search. You're not, dude. Hold on to something real quick. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, actually, hold on to something right now.
Oh man.
3-20 in domination last year.
Oh yeah, actually, I think I remember that, but it slipped my mind. I just erased it from my memory because that's just such a horrible stat to
Bro.
keep around. But holy, 3-20.
3-20.
You
The
tell me you
next.
played 23 of that game mode in that map, or like of those maps, and you won 3?
Yeah, dude.
Dude.
13% win rate. On average, they lost domination by 19 points. Which, like, the next closest was 10-21 record-wise. That was the London Royal Ravens, and they also had the next closest loss average. So LAG on average would lose by 19 points. London on average would lose by 8. Like, that's how bad they were.
All right, so when do we actually look at like the management and the coaching staff and think, okay,
Management
this is where the
first.
problem. Management first?
Yes. Because, I mean,
okay,
Crunky Esports has notoriously been like, we're going to invest, but we're going to invest our money, but not our time. That's like the best way of putting it. Like, the decisions would have to come from Ricky and Bevels on this overall. And this does feel like a situation that they did finally kind of get to pick what team they wanted to have for this year. Like, I think you look at all 4 of those initial players and you sit there and say, okay, I can understand the reasoning. But
yeah,
I mean, you're going to have to, like Paris, like London, completely implode everything and hope that you can do it right next year. Like that, you have to be setting up for that mentality of, we have to do it better next year, whatever it is. And the interesting thing about that is, like, if we have expansions, which we should, they're going to be fighting for that player base with all those other expansion teams. Like, you don't just have free pick of the litter.
So true. Oh man.
Like, and here's the thing, I cannot imagine a world, and there have been a couple of players who have told me this, that they are not willing to play in the CDL for an organization that does not have their stuff together. So, like, if LAG's internal camp is a mess, they're going to have a real tough time building any kind of a good team next year. Versus, like, Rise is saying how interested they are getting involved next year. Cloud9 has, at least when the initial bidding process, they were interested. Like, those organizations bring a level of esports familiarity that Crunky just does not have. So I don't know. That's interesting.
That is.
Oh
boy.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot. That's a lot,
isn't it?
Let's spend some time on challengers because we have to do our due diligence. Next week's going to be crazy for North America, by the way. Like, LAG Academy have to play all 7 of their round robin matches in the span of 3 days. That's going to be wild. Like,
because they refused to play, right?
Well, then it's not that they refused to play; it's because they lost Chino. Like, Chino was getting picked up.
Oh,
so like
Academy. Right.
They didn't have a roster, so now they've got Mox. They better be grinding their tails off this weekend because they have to play, I think, 3 games on Monday, 2 games on Tuesday, and 2 games on Thursday.
My man.
Or wait, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So 3 on Monday, 2 on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday. That is gauntlet of a schedule to go through.
That's good and bad. It's bad because you're just bombarded with a lot of series, but I mean, you catch fire in the first
if they come
2,
out hot,
like,
that's true.
Yeah, you roll that, right? Like, that's what a lot of people are kind of contributing. Even though I actually got to talk to Marky B, like he was touching on, like, dude, like once the Toronto boys like won like 2 series, like on the day that you're playing for the very last, like, you know what I mean, the last day of the tournament, like you're final. Like, I think even Scum said it in one of the podcasts on Optic. Like, once that happens, dude, like it's over for any team that you go up against.
You're just locked in.
Too hot. So yeah, so it's like a similar situation here, right? If they do come out and win a couple of those series in a row, then like you just carry that right through for the next 2 days. But it's also difficult to do that with Mox, who's coming in, right? Like, not everything's going to be necessarily together. So, but it's easy to say in theory, but a lot more difficult to make it actually happen in reality.
So let's talk North American challengers right now. And yes, chat, you guys are absolutely right. I forgot also that Mental had surgery scheduled. That was another reason why, but they kind of happened simultaneously in the first place. Subliners Academy 2-0, Easter 2-0, Triumph 1-0. They had that crazy map 5 versus Parasite's team. UT Crew 1-1, Fantastic 4 0-1, Parasite's team 0-2, built by gamers. What is it with built by gamers coming off of a hot tournament, a hot qualifier, and then starting their group stage 0-2, dude? Like,
it happens like
every stage that's happened,
right?
dude. It happened in stage 1, it happened in stage 2.
I think stage 2, didn't they start off 2-0 and then they lost like 2 heartbreaking games? I want to say where it's like one or the
Maybe.
other. I think they're flip flopping. I want to say stage 1, it was like 0-2, just like it was here, and then
They
stage
went
2, it was
1-1
like
in stage 2.
okay at the beginning. So they were 2-1 at one point though, because I want to say that they were looking okay.
They beat
And
UT
then,
Crew. Yeah, 2-1. They were actually 3-1 at one point in time.
that's what it was. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of, because it was like looking like, oh, finally it's coming together after all this time. And then you move in towards stage 3, and it's like now they're 0-2. They've taken 2 maps, and you're like, oh, guys, is it happening again? Where this is also a team that's been together, since Cup number 3. So they've been together for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And you haven't really been able to reach your potential. I think that all those guys are absolutely expecting of themselves and, as of each other as well.
It's tough, man. To be fair, they did play both of those series versus Easter and Subliners Academy. So if we were just to carry the idea that those two will finish at the top of the group, okay, fine. You have 2 losses versus the top 2. They play up against Parasite's team. They play up against Fantastic Four. I mean, the schedule is all different, but they've got a schedule in front of them that they could potentially still go 4-2, just based on how they qualified, how they finished. Yeah. I mean, the only other opponent out there that has historically beaten them recently with this roster is Triumph, because they beat them in the Open.
Right.
So
they did.
There's potential for 3-3, but I think you're looking at the rest of your schedule, missing a chance versus Easter, getting smoked by Subliners Academy. You could still win your next 4. Still surprising, though. Other side, with Fellow getting picked up, that means that Easter's playing with Sib. Like, that team just went from great to fucking nasty in a heartbeat, dude.
It did, but like, were you expecting that of all changes? Like, for whatever reason, I was thinking, oh, there's no way like Sib is going to be the answer here. I mean, you're looking at it because he didn't make it in, and he's probably one of the best players. But for whatever reason, I thought Easter would definitely probably choose someone who was maybe also experienced in towards the scene for whatever reason. But I think bringing in Sib here really unlocks a lot, especially because he's also working with Phoenix, who I think has already had a great track record throughout Cold War, and I think someone like that could help Sib. So I mean, I'm looking at Easter now and thinking, all right, these guys with a little bit more time get pretty disgusting. You have John, Gravity, Jerd, like these guys have been together forever. Now actually maybe catering to someone who has found himself in this first situation where Sib is actually with vets and he's not like controlling younger talent or with younger talent, right? So I just think that everything, excels and gets a lot better here, but it was just totally unexpected for whatever reason. I just did not think this was coming through.
Schmeeg in chat, it says exactly what I was going to say next. Like, now you've got Atlanta FaZe Academy, Gravity, and Sib back together.
True.
That connection's going to be nasty. And here's the better news, and I'm selfish about this. They make up their game on Monday. I think they play Monday when it comes down. No, when do they play? Easter Subliners Academy plays Wednesday? Is that true? Yes, they do. They play Wednesday before the mainstream, so we get to cast that on the community stream. Let's fucking go, dude. I'm here for that. That matchup's going to be nasty. That matchup's going to be so good. Truly will be. Truly will be.
I do think there's a lot of like really good competition right now for us. I mean, like, I don't think this Fantastic Four lineup has come online just yet, but with, the 2-3 loss, other than that, I think that these guys also like can make moves in towards the top here. Like, a lot of this seeding, I think, really does change around going in towards the next week. But I think the most surprising one is that Subliners Academy have looked as good as they have, coming in with all that's happening behind the scenes with those guys, you know what I mean? Where you don't know if you're starting, you don't know if you're on the academy lineup. Like, it feels like you have no idea where you are. So the fact that those guys have been able to come out with a nice 2-0 victory, I think is also, showing just how deep the talent pool is for all those guys that are being interchanged in and out of the professional league and the challenges league.
So Fantastic Four has now essentially become the refuge of CDL players, right? I mean, Decimate's the only one in that roster now. Yeah, Decimate's the only one who hasn't been on a CDL team this year, but obviously was last year. Do you see that roster Like, who do you have as your top 4 is what I'm wondering. And do you see Fantastic Four being a team that could be there? Because I don't know. The jury's still out on my side when it comes to this
Yeah.
Fantastic Four roster.
I have them in the top 4 personally. I
Okay.
think for the group that got in here for stage 3, I think that what you see here within the top 3 right now, I think with Triumph, Easter, and Subliners Academy, like to me, like those are the 3. I think Triumph has always had it in them, but with the changes, now they're up there. And I'm looking at like UT Crew, and I'm seeing potential with Major Maniac, Easy
He did
Rex,
look
Phantoms. I
better.
think those guys can be good, right? But I'm still thinking that Fantastic Four, just with that lineup and chemistry that you have within a lot of those individuals, I still think that they're good enough, just talent alone, to kind of push them towards the top 4, in my opinion.
Do you think that there are clear-cut bottom 2 teams that will get relegated in NA?
In
Because
NA,
I have a hard time putting my finger on who would
maybe
be.
TMNT, I think, just because I think they had a really good run, but I don't think those guys. I think they'll finish near the bottom. I think they'll finish bottom 2. But the
So
other one, I don't no idea.
they still have to play up against Built by Gamers, Easter, LAG Academy, and Fantastic Four.
Yeah, then
I don't know. If they
really,
could take care of if they could beat Built by Gamers, that's step. It has to happen first of all. You have to beat the other team that's 0-2.
sure.
You just have to. Just by the principle of the group stage. Both those teams, those are must-win matches for them. Easter, I don't think you beat. Oh, they still have to play Subliners Academy as well. I don't know. I
That's
think
a
I'm
tough
looking at LAG Academy as probably being a bottom 2 team this year, this stage. I just don't see that roster working with Mox in it.
You don't think so, eh?
I really
I mean,
don't.
I don't think they get better. Like, I mean, I don't look at Mox as an improvement from Chino. I think he's a consistent player who's been known for, a good amount of time in the scene. So I think it makes sense to bring someone like him in. But I do agree with you where I don't see them standing out amongst the rest.
Yeah.
But I still think that TMNT for me is, I think they're getting relegated. I don't know.
Okay.
Like those guys came in, they just came together on a day where I think like the stars kind of aligned a little bit, and they did play really
Parasite
well,
was
like
fighting,
as a
dude.
group.
He
Yeah,
was
Parasite was
fighting.
fighting. Like he was. He had a lot to fight for too, because I mean, let's be honest, like what happened to him was some BS. So that sucks. But I just don't think that roster looks good enough to beat the other 7 teams.
Yeah.
Maybe they can get away with Built by Gamers, but I just don't think the rest.
I guess Mochilla would have to be a revelation on a sub for them to
Yeah, that's the
do
key,
something
right?
crazy. Okay, that's fair. Let's talk a little bit about EU here as well, because
Sure.
I think this is a little bit more clear cut as far as Elevate currently the best team. I think Orglis slipped versus Amelia Strays, but I still think they're the second best team. Pushing Gaming is going to be by far the worst team that we've seen in the EU Elite ever so far this year. But how about Team War?
Dude.
0-3
What?
with 3 map wins, including losses to Mavericks, who I think would be largely looked at as the second best Spanish team,
Yeah.
and obtained.
I mean, how do you find the words? Because
Gotta win
like,
those. Gotta win those.
I mean, yeah, you got to win those, but like what is going so bad and so horrible from these guys who were your stage 1 champs, and like looks like probably the best team in Europe. And I don't think that that gap was significantly close at the time either. We fast forward to stage 2, that gap does close. They end up falling short, and they don't look nearly as dominant as they did at the beginning of the game and through the cup. So I'm looking at Team Moore thinking, damn, like you
Like,
guys finally got
bruh.
back in the scene. Like, let's go. And then you start your week 1 off with a 0-3. And it's like, damn, dude, like that is not how you want to come back in towards the scene. But I think it is shocking. Like, that is the most shocking one, I think, out of everything that's happening in Europe right now, without a doubt.
So you're saying if I were to give you like a chalk or talk essentially, who's more surprising, Team War or Amelia Strays, as far as the 0-3 start versus
Wow.
the 3-0 start?
It's a good chalker talk right there. Damn. I'm surprised at both, but I think Team War. I am like Amelia Strays, like starting off here at 3-0. Like that's something I don't think I expected, but I think Team War being 7th. Yeah, 0-3, I think that's more surprising. Like with that dominant roster, like I mean, they finished top 4 at the last elite, right? Because they
Yeah,
got the
yeah.
automatic advancement in towards the league here. So for
Hmm.
stage 3, yeah. So I think that one's way more surprising because it feels like they've just fell off a cliff out of nowhere. So yeah, I think I picked Team War in that one.
I'm gonna turn. I mean, I think I agree with you just because of the track record, but this Amelia Strays team, when they were Team Watson, I'm looking back at their qualifier run. They played nobody to get qualified. They played Ludi's team, which was Ludi, Disarray, Johnny, and Saiyan.
Mhm.
Top 32 average players. Some top 16s. Okay, not everybody, but largely speaking, top 32 average. Then they played Clarity Esports, which is CD, Charlie, Cuthbert, Disable, and Toki. Also top 32 at best players. And then they beat Pushing Gaming to get through. Like, they played nobody to qualify. Whereas, like, London's Royal Raven Academy got beat by 3G. Connect 4 got beat by Mavericks. Like, the qualifier was not at all what the expectation would have been at the beginning of it for Europe whatsoever.
No. I mean, I think it's good because Nuke J is someone I think in particular who I've been watching over, and I've been thinking, damn, like this kid actually is really good. And I
It's
think a lot
good.
of
It's a
people are
good
actually
player.
accusing him of walling too. Like they're like, oh, this kid's not this good. That's the difficulty of coming up with a name that's not known as much. But I think Nuke J is not surprising to see him at the top because I think he has looked like he is hard carried in some performances that I've gotten to watch through the qualifier, or whether that was just barely making it in or just barely missing out. Like it feels like this guy has been able to make a lot of big moves so far. So I'm excited to see him. The rest of them, I think, is more surprising than anything because I haven't seen as much from Chaxter this year. And then Watson, I don't even think he's made it in towards any of the elites yet, right? So there is a lot of shocking news. I could be wrong on that one, but I don't remember his name from anything that's happened.
That's fair.
So that team making it in has been very influential to as far as if you can put 4 people together that click, you can make some things happen, right? Like that's what it's really telling to as
Yeah.
far as the narrative. And it's nice to see. It's great to see.
So, who are your top 4
For you,
for me? You. I'm guessing you're going to go Elevate or Gliss at least.
absolutely elevate. I mean, without a doubt. Like they're not in one. I think they just flopped in finals last split. So elevate for sure. I think Orglis for sure. Those are definitely my top 2. And then I want to say obtained, but I'm not seeing it yet. I think these guys have potential, but I don't think they have it in them. So I think I'm going to go with just about the 4 that we have. I think the top 4 that we have currently is who I would pick.
So,
Amelia
Amelia and
Strays and the
Mavericks.
Mavericks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
That's
I
fair.
want to say obtained really bad, but I don't see it.
I mean, Obtained, I mean, essentially what would change that is either a win versus Mavericks or a win versus Amelia. Like, those would have to be
Sure.
must-win matches. And you can't sleep
Yeah,
on
they
Team
would be.
3G either. They actually looked pretty good, I would say.
Yeah, those guys are good.
Man,
That's a really good
what a
point. There's
this
just
is
so much happening, man.
this is a really weird stage for I think everybody.
Well, a lot of teams got in that just we didn't expect to.
I
So
mean, even for like the
we're
CDL, like this entire
oh,
stage
sure,
of Call
sure.
of Duty right now is a weird one.
It's a wild ride.
Man,
I think we're here for
I don't know if we have a choice, even if we didn't want to be here for it. I'm pretty sure we still have
it.
to.
True.
But I'm also here for it. That brings us to about an hour. Chat interaction has been minimal, so this did not turn into an interactive show. But I did see a pretty good question overall, or at least the opinion request on Johanna Ferries being boosted to now being the commissioner of all things Call of Duty. Thoughts on that as far as a move is concerned when it comes to the product that is Call of Duty, not just the esport of it?
uh I guess I'm trying to think of it like I'm not really sure if it's good or not. Like I guess like moving over to like it just feels like everything's gonna be more broad, right? Like instead of just focusing on the esport itself, like you're focusing on like the entire span of it. Like I feel like a lot less attention like comes down to esports, which is like I think the problem with our esport in general right now is like not all the attention is being brought towards the CDL, it's being brought towards Warzone, it's being brought towards making sure everyone in multiplayer is happy and fresh. So I think if anything, it's not ideal. and I didn't know that before that question was asked either. So
Oh, you missed that today? It was like a news
yeah,
release that
I
happened this
definitely
afternoon.
did. I definitely did miss that. So that I don't know. I'm not like I can't maybe touch on it too much, but I'm not a huge fan of it if it feels like it's not the esport for as far as the scope that's being focused on.
See, I'll say this much: I've got no idea at what capacity or range she's worked alongside the esport, outside of the fact that she was the commissioner during last year for Call of Duty League. She's been picked up to be
Right.
the commissioner of all things esports, Activision Blizzard, for both Overwatch League and Call of Duty League this year. And then you're now into the position to where you are now the GM essentially of everything Call of Duty. I will say this much though: if there is ever a true effort from her end when it comes down to the competitive product of the CDL, and now she's in a space that allows her to have more direction on the product overall, that's great news, I think, because now you've got somebody who has at least
Maybe.
been in the pool of what the esport is. And it's not just going to be a bunch of boardroom people that are forgetting that the CDO even exists and just running off of numbers. Like, the fact that she's already been involved with the competitive side of both titles, I think, is actually a positive one when it comes to the direction maybe that she has influence over when it comes to the future of Call of Duty as a whole.
Yeah. I mean, like it just really depends. Like it feels like it's not the first time in Call of Duty where we've heard, oh, this is what's going to happen, but does it actually follow through and happen, right? Like we
That's
don't
fair.
know. Like a lot of the times it feels like it doesn't. So maybe on paper it looks good, but like does it do anything in the grand scheme of things? I hope. It's just
I wonder
you never know,
I
man.
wonder how willing she would be to come on a show like this and talk.
Oh, and talk
Just like interview, questions, AMAs. I wonder if
an
she'd be up for
AMA,
that.
like and a Reddit AMA, I think would be well. Maybe you want to stay away from Reddit. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'm not asking Reddit. No, there's no chance.
I think other esports have like really good like really good communities on Reddit. I think Call of Duty can be a little wishy-washy sometimes, but yeah, I think getting her on a platform that you could like the community can like talk to her, I think is big because last year we got an interview with Lottie, I want to say, right? Or someone interviewed her, like Jess or something
It
like
was a
this.
quick. It
And
was like a quick video segment. Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, it was like nice to see like the face, attached to the position. Like I think that was big, but I really do think like what would an AMA with the community kind of do towards at least getting an idea of like what's happening. Like, we're being told, I think in some capacity, but it'd be nice to hear it right from the top. You know what I mean? Which is I think always been the missing piece of our esport with Call of Duty is we never hear it from the top. It trickles down and we don't really get the full, I don't know,
Hmm.
question or answer of what we're kind of looking for.
Maybe it's worth a shout just to see if that's
You never
something that she
know.
would respond to. Because I think that'd be cool. I think there's a lot of people that'd be
It'd be
genuinely
really cool.
interested into like the role that she fulfills versus what her mindset is, what she's kind of thinking overall. Because I don't want to turn it into an interrogation, but uh, Hex also
The
did an
hell is going
eavesdrop
on
with
with
Johanna.
CDL?
I didn't realize that. How long ago did that eavesdrop episode come out? Because I typically pay attention to the eavesdrop, and if it's someone that I want to listen to, I'll typically give it a listen. But I guess I must have missed that. That's actually the best platform for her to be on, was with someone like
With
Hex.
someone like X who just
Yeah.
has all the experience, yeah, because
So
you can also ask the right questions.
I might have to go back and re-listen to that tonight just to see. And if it was recent, then even better. I mean, I have to imagine
True.
it's within the last year and a half, right? Like her
Feels so,
introduction to
right?
Call of Duty was the beginning
It
of
would
Modern
have to be.
Warfare, so
It
it
would
would
have
have to
to
have
have
been a
been
year and a
during
half
Modern
ago.
Warfare, yeah.
Anything else? Did we miss anything? Chat? Do we miss
We got
anything?
challengers, we got roster changes, we got CDL. I think we hit a lot of the big
Who are your
things.
let's put it this way. Who are your top 6 power ranking wise in CDL right now?
In CDL,
Yeah.
I don't have them written down, but
Me neither. I just off the cuff.
Toronto,
Naturally.
I think you have to. I still think FaZe is really freaking good. I think they could have won that series, and yeah, well, like we're rocking the hoodies too, so it works out beautifully. Um, I knocked Dallas down a couple of pegs. I think third is a really weird one at the moment for us. Like you don't know what's going to happen with Dallas, but I think I'll put Dallas in there just for the sake of them doing okay at the last one. And then I would have, I think fourth, I'd have New York. I'll probably bump them up after this though. I think they're going to come in hot. And then the last two would probably be, I think it's kind of up in the air, right? I think I have Minnesota,
I
and
was
then I'd maybe have
whew.
you have. Ooh, I
I
feel like
was
you have
I
yours ready. I don't know how
I
it sits.
don't, but I was surprised to not hear you say third was Minnesota.
Really?
I was ready. I was mentally prepared for you to say that in your third place spot, Minnesota's there.
I think I could make an argument that they would be like up there for like fourth. I think they're around there. Like they're a top 6 team without a doubt. It's just like I want to see, you know what I mean? Was it full on honeymoon phase? Are we going to see them, really come in here and do what they did last stage? I want to say yes, but I just want to see it happen first.
I mean,
So
their track record from what they played, I mean, map 5 lost to Dallas, map 4 lost to Toronto, map 5 win versus Chicago, 3-0 versus Chicago. Map 5 wins versus Dallas and Seattle during the regular portion of the stage. I don't know. I mean, yeah, honeymoon questions can definitely prevail. That's for sure. But I don't know.
yeah, that's because they started 0-2, and then you bring in Sandy, and I think that whole team just gets an energy boost just for a rookie that's really talented comes in and changes the vibe. And Sandy does a lot for the atmosphere too when you listen to him.
That's
So
true.
he brings a lot of good vibes to the team. But yeah, I mean, I think they're still going to be good. A lot better than before, that's for sure. So
I
I
think
expect them to make moves.
my top 6 would be Atlanta, Toronto, top 2 for sure.
Yeah.
Probably Minnesota. Man, I really want to think New York is going to be fine, but like,
I think they're going to be good.
man, that change also kind of baffled me in a way.
Oh, for Diamond for Hydra and now
Yeah.
like Hydra for Mac and put him on
Yeah.
a sub.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do think that Hydra is
He's nasty.
better than DC.
He's nasty.
Like in that position.
I
even though
just kind
DC's
of,
great.
I'm really interested in like, can Hydra's communication function at the highest level? Because like in challengers, I think you can still largely rely on his individual gun skill to get him through. Not that that's the case. Like obviously he's learned English to a pretty good extent, but
yeah,
when you start playing up against, what's their stage look like? They've got their first matches versus Atlanta. So like you're going up against Atlanta, first match into the Pro League. You're gonna have to communicate like very well. You can't just go quiet and try to frag against Atlanta. It's not gonna work for you.
I agree.
I don't know.
I mean,
it'll be interesting.
A test, but I think Clayster like makes sure like that happens. Like I mean, you can't force it. Like you can't force the man to technically do it in theory when he maybe isn't, like English isn't his native language. So like it's not easy maybe at times, and it could probably feel, I think, really weird in general, just kind of making that move and having that culture shock play a factor. So he's gotten used to it. I think the goal for NYSL was to get him comfortable and then bring him in and let a Revan, let a Clayster, mentor this kid and turn him into the beast that the entire community is waiting to see.
Are we putting too much on Clayster's platter? Like, hey, make Mac good. Hey, make Diamond Con good. Hey, make Hydra good.
It's gotta be
I mean, I know that's not like that's
right. Yeah, they're not having.
It's not the combos, philosophy, but still.
It's kind
hey,
of
good job with Illy and Shotzi last year. Here's 3 new guys to.
Yeah, let's do it again.
Oh, and by the way, good job with Abizi and Sid from the year before that too.
Oh yeah, that was good. Yeah,
that's unreal.
Tough, man.
Oh, this is a good question. We forgot about Standoff. You're huge on Standoff. You're a big BO2 fan.
I mean, we're basically playing Black Ops 2 over again. It feels like with different guns, right?
I forget who mentioned it. I don't know if it was Silly or Aches or somebody was like, by the end of the year, this is just about to be Black Ops 2 remastered. Like, we're not even going to be playing any of the original Cold War maps.
That's how it feels.
Wild.
So I'm obviously great with it. I mean, I think the map should be brought in. Like the more maps, the better in my eyes. Like if you have more maps to pick or ban, like I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing as long as you're not flooding it with like 8 or 9.
I don't think the pool is ever going to get beyond 5 hardpoint maps, 5 search matches, and then 3 maps for the whatever the third mode is.
Just because the maps will be subbed in and out.
No, just because of how the pick ban process works. Like you would have to have. Because right now it's 1 ban per team, right? For each of those modes. Sure. You would have to extend it to be 2 bans per team. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fair. Like, you would have to have 7 hardpoint maps, 7 search maps, 5 control maps.
True. That's a good point. I mean, I still think the idea of bringing it in is probably going to be good because like you could have another control map, right? Like if you still only banned out one, it just gives you the option to pick from two. Like I don't think that's a problem,
That's fair.
but maybe they want to follow their
I was
I don't know, whatever they have going on. I was I was looking at the chat. I saw
yeah,
J Pro.
J Pro just got wrecked, dude. It was
threw me off there.
okay. So this is okay. We can talk about that here in a moment. I still got the tweet, J Pros. I'll read it out here in a minute. Yeah. So standoff. Would you just every game mode? Okay.
You could. I think so. I think you could play it in control. I mean, we don't know where the zones are, but dude, put one right in mid court, put the second one by tractor, and like have it maybe weave in and out of that cube area, so you can still be hidden from the stacks besides warehouse. Because I'm trying to think of all the call outs because it's been so long.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm looking up the map call outs right now because I don't remember them either.
Yeah, that's fair. So like I think so. Like that tractor area, that's where the bomb site is. Technically, where both bomb sites are, where you have one in front of butcher or deli, whatever we're gonna call it.
Yeah.
Sure. And then you have the other one by the other bomb site that's like inside of cube that kind of fans out in behind the tractor almost.
I guess
or just the tractor area.
Would you figure that spawns would then just still be where the normal default hardpoint spawns are then off the rip?
I think so, yeah, because you can't really have the spawn close to stacks, but you could have the spawns either beside warehouse, right where the CTF flag would be, or you could have it still spawn you back alley, which you can influence anyway. So like I feel like those spawns are existent for the attacking side, which I would assume that side would be. But I mean,
Sports says gas station for sure be one. It's interesting though because gas station is pinned up against the back of at the back of the map, so that means there's only one avenue of approach to it. That's what my worry would be.
At the back, well, like it forces you to pretty much OE to back alley, but like you can still, I guess, wrap in towards the middle.
Yes, like, this is J Pro says the same thing. Gas would be nearly impossible. He says it would be impossible to break.
But the zone to be
the zone to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely don't want the zone there. But yeah, I still think like if you put it right in mid court, right in tractor, I think you could have a really good control map. And I think S&D and Hardpoint like goes without saying. Like we've already played.
We've already seen it. Yeah.
Like we know how it plays. I mean, let's just throw it in, man, because it's such a good map. Like it flows just like Raid does, and we know how much we love Raid in the rotation. So like, what's another fantastic map that should be carrying on game to game, by the way, but isn't? Should be. Like those maps flow the best. If you can play 3 game modes on it, those are maps you never leave out of the competitive rotation, in my opinion.
So let's just give it the realistic benefit of the doubt that you'll see it for both Hardpoint and Search. What are you taking out in the current rotation to put standoff in?
You'd have to take one of each game mode out in order to keep the
yeah. Because we're not going to be able to add another map unless you put Crossroads back in.
No, you don't take out Miami. You put in or you take out Checkmate, right? Checkmate
for the Search. Yeah.
Checkmate S&D.
What are you taking out in Hardpoint?
HP. I love Apocalypse too much. Raid's too good. I'm trying to think. I think do you take out Checkmate Hardpoint too? I think Garrison Hardpoint's actually really good. I think it's actually fun to watch and it plays okay.
Welcome to the city of who loves Apocalypse. Population 1 Visions.
I'm the only one who likes it.
I don't think anybody likes Apocalypse.
Really?
Yeah.
It's fun to cast. It's fun to watch. Maybe it's not fun to play because there's more chaos and it's harder.
It's so hold heavy.
Yeah, it is. But
it's so hold heavy.
We played Hackney Yard. Not even just Hardpoint.
I didn't like it either.
Too. You know what I mean?
I know.
We played Hackney Yard.
You literally cliched an entire phrase that people are getting Hackney Yarded. Like that's.
I did.
That says enough.
We can throw this in.
I think you've got to. I think you've got to take out APOC. And like the thing about it is like.
I don't like
has there ever been, I mean, I know Valkyrie in World War II came in like middle of the year.
It did.
Did it just get added or did it replace something?
It was
because it was used for all 3 modes, correct?
I don't remember exactly. I don't think it was used for all 3. I think it
had Hardpoint and it had CTF, didn't it?
It didn't have CTF. It might have had CTF.
Valk was not a CTF map. Okay.
No. Yeah, I didn't think so. I think
so. It was Search and Hardpoint or just Hardpoint?
Was it? I don't remember playing S&D on it.
Doc's Flak Tower in Ardennes. That's right.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, I think it was just added in.
Interesting.
It was search. I barely remember it. Piecing with the sniping.
Oh my god, dude! I didn't realize that Valkyrie was added in January. I thought it came in like April.
I think it was because the maps were so bland and they were so bad. I think the community was like just outraged with the fact that we were playing the maps that we were. Because like that was the only real problem with World War II. It was, I think, just the maps and the game just looked really dull. Wasn't a whole lot of pop.
That's
due to the
fair.
colors on the map.
So is
But
this?
it was a good game.
We're about to add in a map after stage 3, which means that stage 4 doesn't start until the end of May.
Bruh.
Is this the latest there's ever been
Maps added?
a map addition,
year?
subtraction, substitution in Call of Duty's history for competitive?
Maybe. Yeah. Because we didn't start adding like DLC maps to the rotation. Like maybe the jetpack era. The jetpack era is like the one era where like I wasn't following COD too much as I was the like boots on the ground. So like I don't know for sure, but like it's only happened as of recently that we've started to do it. Never used to happen. Like DLC maps would drop. There was never a question whether you'd bring those in like some of the OG games. This might be the latest, yeah.
Chat's saying yes, this is the latest. John's saying that BO3 and IW there was no additions. Maybe one in AW. World War II was just Valkyrie. Nothing in Black Ops 4. Nothing in Modern Warfare.
Wow.
Dude,
That goes
end of May. End of May.
Wow.
And the thing is, like, it's the same slot. Like, we have not carried 5 good maps the entirety of the year.
Yeah.
And I guess technically for Search and Destroy, like if Checkmate's taken out, which you have to feel like that would be the one that would have to go, that means that throughout the year, we haven't held 3 good maps in Search and Destroy until the end of May.
It's almost like we should be carrying maps over from game to game.
Don't even get started on Control. I mean, to be fair, Garrison has become much more fun to watch with the platform opening up the contest spot for offense.
Yeah, I think so. Like it's made it a little bit better, but you could just still tell like the flow of it is off, right? Like sometimes big things need to happen in order to come away with offensive rounds. It's not always purely just by playing good offense. Like that's not always enough to pull through, which it should be in reality. When
This is interesting. This is something that I didn't even think about looking at. For Control, just take a guess. What do you think the order is as far as most played to least played map on Control?
Most played to least played?
Yeah, most played to least played.
Out of the 3 that we have?
Yeah.
Most played, probably Raid, Garrison, Checkmate. Or no, Checkmate's played a lot because Garrison is always vetoed. So wait, no way. It's Checkmate, Raid, Garrison, isn't it?
It's Raid, Checkmate, Garrison.
Oh, okay.
45 times Raid has been played. 29 times for Checkmate, 23 for Garrison.
Wow, that's a lot of series where Garrison's been vetoed.
Yeah.
That's actually times over the course of the whole year. It's been there since the start.
Yeah. That's actually a solid point. Well, I mean, technically Raid has been there since the start as well. We didn't play any Moscow Control in the CDL, but
yeah, I guess. But dude, 23 times, like that should go to tell you something about the map, right? And I think people just handshake Checkmate too. It's not even like you're playing Checkmate to like always like win it like in 4 or win it in 3. You're playing it to get to the round 5. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, so 97 total controls have been played. 45 of them have been played on Raid.
It's kind of sick. I don't know how I feel about that.
I mean, the map pool is just not great. Now I'm curious. We're getting off track, and the listeners at large are going to be
confused.
Not confused necessarily, but a little bit confused. Now I want to know what the stats are for all of the modes. Like, what's the dispersal between them? You know what I mean? I can't really put in... Wait, this is actually so interesting. Hold on, you're about to be mind blown, dude. You don't even know.
Oh, no.
You actually are about to be so mind blown. Okay. Let's do the most played to least played. So we know what control is. Most played to least played search and destroy. I'm just going to give it to you. I won't force you to guess. But this is so interesting. Most played is Moscow. Second most played is Miami. Then you've got a tie between Checkmate and Raid. And then Express, naturally, because it's added in last, is the least.
Yeah.
But how about this? 27 times for Moscow, 26 times for Miami, 23 for Checkmate and Raid, and Express that was added a full stage late is already at 20.
It's already at 20. Oh, like look at like all of the Black Ops 2 maps, like they're kind of just taking over, man. It's almost like they had something right in that game. It just makes you it actually is like kind of sad because like you're like, wow. Like think of the maps we started with at the beginning of the game and think about actually how a lot of people already vocalized the problems with there's not enough maps in this game. Like it feels like we got too few, there's not enough competitive maps, and now we fast forward to stage 3 where all those maps
Are
that
being
are
are
being
gone.
taken out
Yeah.
or are already gone. Yeah. And all the BO2 maps are in.
You ready for Hardpoint?
Oh, dude.
This actually surprises me.
The first one Garrison played the most?
Close. It's Checkmate by 1. 39 total times Checkmate's been played. 38 total times Garrison's been played. Raid is next at 30. Moscow's at 26. And then Apocalypse has only been played 10 times.
That's actually a little surprising.
So Search and Destroy is actually like purely representative outside of the fact that you have to keep in mind that Express is added in stage 2.
Sure.
So like as far as like the amount of opportunities to be played, Express has been played the most given the opportunities to play it. J-Pros. Express is just so good. It's almost like BO2 is the best COD of all time.
Almost like it, dude. Like that's what I mean. Like those maps, like those expresses, your raids, your standoffs, like those got to carry on from game to game. Because like we'll always have a core set map for the game modes that are necessary. If you want to play Dom on it, and we're not gonna have control or CTF in the next one that's made, then
Yeah,
like at least do it on standoff. Like it would be bearable. You feel
Oh,
like
man.
at least a little bit more. I don't know, man. I mean, I think that this year goes to show a lot about the set that we got. And
I agree.
How we're trying to frame up competitive Call of Duty and turn it into or is a franchise, and all these things are still a problem. So, yes, Meltdown S&D, love that right there, dude. Best S&D map of all time, no cap.
One thing that J-Pro's concerned about is standoff. BO2, the jump wasn't as high. Just hope that the mantle doesn't add new angles that break the map. Interesting. I mean, unless you just make those objects like non-mountable. You know what I mean? Like there are plenty of those instances that exist across the map right now, right? Where it's like, I could get on top of this box. Nope, never mind. Can't do it. Thoughts on Paris? We kind of already talked over it a little bit, but we could kind of use this as final wrapping point because we are at about an hour and a half. So still, even if we give ourselves an open time frame away from our 30-minute time segment that we normally have with essentially equal time for viewer questions, we still go longer than we anticipate. Paris overall, I think this would be a very revealing stage for them. Like you've got to beat LAG, you've got to beat Florida, and you would love to put up another fight versus a Minnesota or a Toronto. I think if you beat LAG and Florida, but you still get smoked by Minnesota and Toronto, I still think that goes to show you have to make moves. Like at least it'll be clear cut that the roster that you have is not it. Because getting out of the stage with 2 wins, like you're starting lower bracket at that point.
Yeah, you will be. And on top of it all, I mean, I don't think Paris would doesn't really feel like they're gonna make any more changes, So like I think like that team's okay, but I still feel like with Fire they were better. I mean, I just think that Fire had a poor stage too. So
That's fair.
It just didn't allow them to maybe roll the dice one more time. I don't know. We'll see what happens with them, but I still think there's no expectation. So they do good or bad, it ultimately probably doesn't really matter to the organization as much as the community.
Yeah, dude. We want to sign 4 French players that could compete for a championship and not give them any money. But also, we don't want to spend money on Hydra.
What a
The
loss.
hell?
Dude.
That hex weed hitting different already, dude. Oh no. Hashtag green trees. Okay, this is interesting. If Huke is actually out for competitive reasons, if I'm Florida, Quattro says, I'm spending cash immediately on him and Vivid.
Ooh, I like
Yeah.
that combo.
Yeah.
I like that
With
combo a
Awakening
lot.
and Skies, I can't imagine there being any kind of bad vibes there at all.
No, Awakening, I think, is just one of the most easygoing people in the league. It feels like he's really humble too. So, like, there's no ego there with him.
There's
Skies,
definitely no
I
ego
think a
with
lot of that
Skies.
goes,
No ego at all
yeah,
with
it's the
Skies.
same way, right? Like, he's a very outgoing dude, and he's just a fun guy all around. So I think the vibes flow. I think the only problem that team would lack would be a leader. I think because all four of those guys aren't extremely vocal, but I think they would be nasty if they played. It's just I think the leadership role would be maybe a potential problem with that squad. I don't really know how much Skies is talking, but I don't think Awakening is that much at all.
Could you make the argument that that's already a problem that exists with this current Florida team, though?
I think you could because I think Slacked was actually like one of the main voices for that team when they were playing. So I think you absolutely could make the same argument that I don't think that necessarily gets filled with someone like Havoc, except for S&D. I think Havoc makes a lot of great shot calls in S&D, but your respawn kind of collectively bringing everyone back together and driving the bus, if you will, for as far as the team. Yeah, I think that's maybe still a problem.
Sure. What do you think about this? I had this point come up in a conversation last night on some Twitter space convo. Is it telling in your mind with the CDL that arguably and maybe even beyond that definitively your best CDL teams since the CDL has been the CDL all come from owners that were at one point in time rooted in Call of Duty?
Wow, what the hell?
Atlanta, FaZe Clan, obviously.
Yeah.
Chicago with X, Dallas with Astro, Toronto with
Indeed.
Overactive and Splice.
What the hell? It's just like I did not ever think about that. That is insane. I mean, it goes to show you something, right? Like you can't really shy
Like
away from that.
your
That kinda just was
ownership,
like a
like
bombshell in my brain.
it almost feels like, and if the results
Wow.
almost come out the same way this year, like if your ownership does not understand COD, your team will not be successful.
Yeah. I I mean, I agree. I agree because I just think like the one problem that you kind of have with it is like with franchising and CDL in general, like there's still like a lot of growing pains and a lot of learning and understanding where like yeah, the people who have been in the scene who have either been competing or have just been a team owner for such a long time that they understand like what needs to be done. So
Right.
the new squad coming in, yeah, they're signing flashy players. The best example, what happened last year with Optic, right? When Immortals comes in, buys the brand, spends a ridiculous amount of money, keeps the name, spends a lot of money to keep the name, period, in the CDL. They sign players like TJ, Dashy, Slasher, JCap, and you flop and don't really do too much. You had a good run at the end when you made some, changes, but like that team with the amount of money that they had spent, like you're
Right.
expecting that team to take over. Like that is the team. Not the case. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are coming and just, pulling out their wallet. Here's my credit card, bring us a team, baby. Like bring it home. Oh, look, we got Dashy, we got TJ. It's like, well, you guys got 20-point club by Toronto last year. So something's not wrong or something's going wrong. So like you got to kind of figure out what's going on with the management teams, I think, and selecting
Yeah.
players and building teams.
And to the point that was brought up, the big Seattle oof. Technically, Luminosity aren't the owners of Seattle. Like they're like that's the same thing with the Vancouver Canucks. Like they are affiliates in a way, but they're not the owners. Like that's Enthusiast Enterprises or whatever they are. They own like the Canucks and stuff like that. So like that's a different situation. But I think it's really interesting when you try to frame it like that. Like your teams that have been long time rooted into COD are the teams that are historically over the course of the CDL so far been by far the best.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
But I also agree. I think Florida needs to throw the bag. They need to throw money around.
For us to say, yeah, man, just spend a couple 100,000 more, get some good players in there, baby.
But honestly, like, yes,
we already paid
like
money right now, right?
that's the thing. Like, you have to feel like Atlanta, Dallas, Chicago. They're not paying maybe anybody league minimum.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to put together a winning team if
I agree. You spend money for sure, but like they probably did. Like thinking of like all those players that they signed, like I mean, we don't know. Like I don't know, but I'm thinking those guys are still sitting okay. Like with they're still getting the bag. They're just not bringing home the wins.
right,
So it's just maybe not the right team formed around the players that you signed. I don't
right,
know.
yeah. Red Global isn't like a rooted COD organization, though. So they were saying that London's ownership is rooted in COD. I don't necessarily agree with that. Like, the Ret company is like an esports, like a global esports company, but they're not like a Call of Duty. Like, ownership is not Call of Duty. Like, that's not where they came from. Like, you have like your envies. All their management is EU COD Legends. Are you talking about their coaching staff or their owners? I'm not talking their coaching staff. I'm talking like the owners themselves. Who do you got in there? Co-owner Vicstar. Okay, yeah. Streamer, content creator, not like a big COD head.
He was never like into competitive per se, but he used to do a lot of montage stuff with like tomahawks and knife only and stuff back when.
I don't know who Michael Odell is. Should I know that name? He's their managing director.
I don't know the name personally.
I don't know who that is. Legend in the scene? Clearly, because we've never heard of him. Not trying to throw shade, but like, I've got no idea who that is.
Oh well.
I'm gonna look it up.
Doesn't ring
literally nothing is popping up. A couple of Warzone streams apparently that he did. I don't know. Interesting stuff.
I do think it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it goes to show they know what they're doing, to an extent. So it is nice to see. I think at the end of the day, that one that is taking place, but it is also, I think, great to see like these other teams and orgs working their way up. It's just they haven't gotten there just yet.
What do you think? You think that's a good place to wrap on?
Yeah, we will on some controversy for sure. Some hot takes,
You could say that.
I like that.
I'm glad that we did this though. We would not have. We obviously would not have had time to get through all the things we wanted to talk about in a 30-minute time period. So I don't know. I would like to do some more of this. Question for the audience at large: how much would you guys be? Maybe I'll put this as a Twitter poll. What if we did simultaneously this show live, but we also did it to Twitter Spaces? So you guys could listen at both the Twitch or just on Twitter, like on your phones. I wonder if that would be successful. Another little niche we could hit. Because that would just be as easy as essentially us having our phones open with our microphones on.
Mm-hmm. And joining a group together.
And then just making a group with just the two of us.
Yeah. And people could join in and
we could take callers from Spaces. I wouldn't be able to add that into the production on Twitch because there's no platform for the PC Twitter to get access to Spaces yet. So I would not be able to. Maybe I could finesse it if I like Bluetoothed it into my computer or something. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I'll do some major finessing off that. I don't know if I have the mental capability to do that. I was telling somebody earlier today that after this weekend, the best way I can categorize the month of April is my brain has been on the equivalent of Windows safe mode for the entirety of the month.
That's good. I like that.
So that's what we'll end on. We'll see you guys on Sunday, maybe. Ooh, yeah, Sunday? We can do Sunday. I don't got anything going on Sunday.
Casting Sunday. Other than that, I think I'm okay. It's early though, so it's okay.
Yeah, same here. Cool. So we'll do Sunday. We'll give you guys the full recap on the London Home Series. Until next time. I want that fuse fizzle out. Later.